Okay, good morning and welcome to your IT's Microsoft 365 Copilot workshop. Thank you for being on time. We've got probably about half the attendees we're kind of expecting at the moment. So we're just going to give it 2 or 3 minutes before we kick off, just to give any latecomers just a chance to get in, and then we'll get started. Just for your information, you can introduce yourself in the chat if you want to. Questions and answers bit is kind of turned on. If you want to go into the Q&A, if you want to ask any questions at any point in time, stick them in the Q&A. We will try and get to them during the session, but it is quite a full session. So if we don't manage to do that, what we'll do is we will do an email with a recording and answers to all the questions at the end. So yeah, I will go back over that again when we've got everyone in. But yeah, just going to give it 2 or 3 more minutes, and then we'll kick off. Any of the other presenters want to fill this time with a song?
I can sing a song, but I don't think anyone's going to appreciate that.
And that's the last thing you want from me.
I've got nursery rhymes stuck on my head from my kids, but apart from that, it's yeah. Don't even think they like hearing me sing.
So I think I will literally just give it to a couple more minutes, because I know a lot of people, and I do it all the time, will book onto a webinar and wait for the recording. So so we know that happens. So yeah, we 2 or 3 more minutes for people to get in. Just feel totally compelled to fill that silence, though. Can't sit not saying anything. Right, not that I'm impatient. Please. 3 minutes past. Let's go. Let's get started. So I'm just going to do a quick introduction to your IT, because there's a fair number of people on the call who are not sort of existing clients of us. There's a fair number that are as well. So your IT department formed in 2009. We're a managed service provider from the East Midlands. So we provide IT, cybersecurity, and IT and automation services to around about 120 businesses across the UK. We're a Microsoft partner, and we've been working with clients on Copilot since around November 2023, when it sort of became Copilot and came out of other things like Microsoft Chat and things like that. Later on this morning, you will be hearing from our senior business advisor, Angus, and he'll be giving you some ideas on how to use the agentic side of Copilot, which is a lovely word to speak to try and trip me up on a Wednesday morning. But for probably most of the session, we're going to have a Microsoft specialist who called James, and he's going to be handling an introduction to Copilot and going through how you can use that in your everyday working lives. So we will disappear off screen for a few minutes, and we'll hand over to James.
Amazing. Well, thank you very much, Craig. And thanks everybody for joining us today. Hopefully this will be a nice and entertaining session for you all, where we're going to be talking about all things Microsoft 365 Copilot. So just to get things started for you, for those of you that don't know what Microsoft 365 Copilot is, this is basically Microsoft's branding, shall we say, for their AI technologies that are built into the Microsoft 365 stack, among other things as well. So this is all around productivity AI, AI chat functionality, and so on and so forth. But we're going to give you a pretty well-rounded view of all of this today, and we're going to kick things off with just a little bit of an agenda for you so you can understand what we're going to be covering. Kick things off, a little bit of an overview around Copilot itself and the generative AI. We're going to go over some key capabilities, some plugins that are available for it to integrate it into other systems, some evaluations of your environment, some prerequisites, some adoption, and some resources. Now, we may cut things a little bit short depending on how we go for time, but we're going to cover the basics of what is Copilot, how does it position it, why your business should have it, and some demonstrations for you, so you can see it in action, shall we say, as we go. So, kicking things off, a little bit of an overview for you all. I'm sure many of you on the call will be using various different, should we say, generative AI technologies that are out there at the moment. ChatGPTs, Gemini, Siri, potentially even maybe Copilot Chat. Now it's available for free in your business license for many users. But these sorts of technologies is very much been a tech shift of the last couple of years, and they're very much here to stay. And one of the things we do like putting some emphasis on and here is just how quick it was that products such as ChatGPT were physically adopted by businesses and users. Now, obviously, mobile phones, internets, and Facebook, as you see on the screen here, they're all product sets and things that we couldn't live without anymore. You know, we couldn't function without internet and mobile phones and Facebook. They've become an integrated part of, you know, communities and the wider world, shall we say. And obviously, as you see on there, you know, the amount of time it took for these technologies to reach 100 million users versus the 2 months it took ChatGPT to reach that number is, you know, pretty mind-blowing in terms of the adoption there that you'll see. Now, if you do believe some sources, ChatGPT did it quicker than 2 months. I've gone with a conservative number here of 2 months, but there is some sources out there that say it did it in as short as 45 days. So, you know, we're talking like a month and a half there approximately to reach that 100 million user point, which is, you know, as I say, absolutely mind-blowing to think of that level of adoption. But it does just put some emphasis there that these technologies are here and they're going to be here to stay because people are integrating them into their lives just like they did social media, internet, and mobile technology. So Copilot itself, though, and to spin things back to this, is a very different beast to what it was when it was released approximately 2 years ago now. So during that time, it's gone through a lot of product updates. Now, Microsoft showed a very, very nice, slick video when it first came out with a lot of features and functionality. And at the point of release, some of that feature and functionality wasn't fully available yet. But since that point, it has come on an awful long way with over 300 plus product updates to date. Some of the more significant updates that personally I've seen is it's now very quite intuitive when it comes to things like Excel, giving you a lot of data insights and giving you a lot of things around formulas and things of that nature as well. So that's an area that personally I've seen a lot of improvements during that time, as well as its ability to communicate with you. We've also got on there Microsoft's recent stats saying that it is now twice as fast as when it was first released, and there's nearly 3 times the quality in terms of its response on that. Now, I do always take the quality one with a little bit of a pinch of salt because I do believe that we as people are becoming a lot better at interacting with these generative AI technologies. So we get better at asking the question, it gets better at giving us a response in turn. So I do think that goes hand in hand with us as users of these technologies, as well as the technology developing itself there. But we are starting to see quicker responses. We are starting to see better quality in those answers, responses, etc., that go with that. Now, I've just thrown a few stats and things at you there, and there will be some more to come as we go through all of this. But one of the things we like to do is just talk about something that's known as the Work Trend Index Report. Now, this is where all this data and telemetry, etc., all comes from Microsoft, and it what acts as like a guiding principle for them as to what they're going to decide to do over the coming financial year for them as a business. Now, the Work Trend Index Report is freely available to anybody, so you can go on the web and download it. It isn't a light read, I'll tell you that much, but it is rather interesting with some of the information it provides to you. But what this basically does is surveys 31,000 people across 31 different countries, as you'll see highlighted in purple on the screen there. At the same time, it's also taking a lot of analytical data from things like LinkedIn with its hiring trends and labour information, the Microsoft 365 productivity stack itself and what the buy-in trends have been there and the adoption and the usage of that is, as well as on top of that, things such as, interviews with AI startups, economists, academics, and so on and so forth, really. So it's taking all of that data, all of that telemetry that they get access to, and generating this very public report that they produce on a yearly basis, which gives us a lot of the information that we're going to be going through today for you. So off the back of this report, some of the interesting stats and things where we're seeing Copilot start to come into the equation for people is these stats. So employees are interrupted every 2 minutes by a meeting, an email, a pinged notification, or if you want to put that into actual how many times a day, 275 times per day to be exact, is how many times that we're seeing people have those interruptions come up, which is causing obviously a lot of inefficiency and a lot of pain points. And it's something that we're starting to see people deploy products like Copilot to support in doing these, in limiting these sorts of negative impacts, shall we call them, in people's productivity. And it does that through various different means by taking away menial admin tasks, questions between an employee and maybe a HR department are minimized because they can just ask the questions inside of Copilot agents that could potentially be created, which is what Angus is going to be touching on kind of shortly for you there. We've also got on here 83% of leaders believe that AI will let junior employees do strategic work sooner. So this is a situation where junior employees will be able to pass over a lot of the more let's say administrative heavy tasks to Copilot and allow it to do those tasks for them, which means they have the ability to learn and deploy their own skill set in a more strategic manner for businesses sooner within their employment. Now, funnily enough, we did do this with your IT department team the other day, and we had some of their customers in the office with us when we did this as well. And funnily enough, they were saying, does that mean there's going to be less junior employees? And, is there a concern around, this is going to take my job, as many people do think about? And funnily enough, I was on a Microsoft AI roadshow just the other day, and it was very, very much positioned in there with a number of customers of Microsoft that was on that call around saying that this isn't going to be a situation where AI will take your job. It's going to be very much positioned as, if you don't use AI, somebody who can use AI will take your job, because they will be far more efficient as an individual by working alongside those AI tools and this sort of connectivity that it gives you to the wider world. Which kind of brings us on to this piece now, which is how will you adapt, and how will you utilize these tools, these features, these functions that become available to yourselves as individuals, to your wider business, and even your industry as a whole. It's a situation where these tools are available to everybody. So if you don't adopt them, there's a potential here competitors will adopt these tools, and you as a business will have to adapt to that. That it can give people the competitive edge in terms of resource, in terms of answers, in terms of the complexity of what they can and can't do with their daily time. But another question that we do come on to, and we get asked this quite a lot, is, well, how do we look at the return on investment? And one of the other places we kind of flip this on its head as well is the return on experience factor. And there's a nice little chart that runs across the middle here now, showing the speed, the quality, and the effort aspect of this. And down the right-hand side, you tend to find there that those are your core kind of outcomes, shall we say, that businesses are looking at. So this is the accelerated growth of the business, the cost saving applications, the cost avoidance piece, and then we've got employee retention, which is quite often a very overlooked factor of it there. So we're going to start off here looking at the employee retention aspect, which you'll see at the bottom there, which we've put under effort as a part of that piece. So this is around reducing the mundane tasks, improving the well-being and engagement of your staff, and increasing job satisfaction through improved results. One of the pieces that did come off the back of this as a part of the Work Trend Index reports over the last couple of years has very much been job satisfaction, employee retention increases as a factor of work-life balance can improve as a consequence of this by not having to do a lot of heavy administrative tasks that are involved in some people's job roles. It meant it gave them time back. Working from home was kind of a big evidence of that, where people do get tempted to turn the laptops on an evening and work. With these administrative tasks going out the way, there was people finding less need to turn laptops on an evening and catch up on workloads from the day. You've also got the speed factor here. That's employees being able to do more within their working day. Again, these repetitive tasks, these administrative heavy tasks, Copilot being able to increase employees' output by taking those tasks away and giving them more time to work on the quality aspect of their work, which is increasing their creativity, increasing the quality of content, and doing things which are more financially beneficial to your business as a whole. All of those things kind of coming together, accelerating the growth, the cost savings aspect, your employee retention piece, and so on as a consequence of that. Now, Microsoft do have some really good tools and things to help you work out what the potential ROI is and the return on the experience here. One of the things we do like to say at this point is this is very much needs to be a phased rollout. You can't run before you can walk in these sorts of scenarios, and it's very much recommended that you do this in a almost department basis so you can ensure that people in those departments know how to use these tools, understand the potential benefits, and they are using them in ways and means that will bring the most benefit to them as individuals. But now we get on to the slightly more exciting parts, shall we say, where we're going to have a quick look at the kind of licensing of Copilot, how it actually works, and then we're going to touch on to the demos for you before we hand over to Angus. So first things first, we have a free version of Microsoft 365 Copilot, and there is a paid for version. So I just wanted to kind of give you an idea of the differentiation here between the two of them. So the free version that comes today comes with all Microsoft 365 business licenses. So if you've got a business standard, basic, premium license, even an E3 or an E5, you will have access to the Microsoft 365 Copilot chat functionality. And while you may not be able to see everything on the screen here perfectly, to give you a bit of an insight as to what that includes, it's basically giving you talk functionality backwards and forwards with Copilot about various different subject matter. That could be an email that you've uploaded, it could be a document you upload, it could just be a conversation, almost as if you were doing a Google search, but trying to dig deeper into an answer that you're looking for. That sort of situation. One thing to remember is Copilot's free chat isn't secure. It is used to train the large language model, etc. So corporate data in there does have the potential for some sort of security incidents accordingly. So don't put your secure data in there. Very much just keep it, anonymous and keeping it as a chat functionality that it is. Now, when you move on to the full paid version of the license, which is known as Microsoft 365 Copilot, this is where it closes that loop and makes it so that everything that remains inside of there remains secure and is only information that's available to you and your corporate entity. Now, you continue to get that same chat functionality, and again, that brings it into the closed loop, but you also start getting additional features on top of that, which come into productivity tools such as Word, PowerPoint, Excel, to name just a couple there for you. Now, when we say it comes into these productivity tools, you'll see as we come into the demos, it's giving you the ability to use Copilot to go do some creative work, to pick up some of the, shall we say, some of the things that would normally take us as individuals longer. Personally, I use this a lot in PowerPoint. It means it gives me a head start and will do 75% of the generation of the creative content for me. And I just have to go in and fill in the blanks, cross-check the wording, do things of that nature. You also start getting some additional features around Copilot Agents, which again, I'm going to leave it to Angus to discuss for you shortly. And you also get on top of that some advanced SharePoint features that come with that as well, which is pretty good stuff for being able to manage your SharePoint environments, and also make sure people have got the right roles, responsibilities, and the great levels of access to what they need as a part of that. And looking at how Copilot itself works, and I wanted to cover this as part of that piece where I've mentioned it's closed loop and part of your own corporate framework. So this is a diagram of pretty much how Copilot works at a very high level for you. This does look a little bit scary, so I'm going to talk you through it, and it is quite simple. And once we just talk about the key components and the core parts of that. So in this, I'm going to do a little scenario here of I've just opened up a Microsoft Word blank document and I'm using Copilot inside it. I've asked Copilot to create me a marketing plan based on conversations that I've had and meetings that I've had in the last 3 weeks as a part of the marketing catch-up group, we'll call it, for instance. So once I've asked it to do that for me, it's going to go away to that bottom left-hand corner there, which is where you see the Microsoft Graph. Now, the Microsoft Graph is something that's unique to every single Microsoft customer. So everybody has their own graph. And the graph basically acts almost like a bouncer to say, yes, you do, or no, you don't have access to this particular content inside of your Microsoft environment. So in this instance, it would go away and say, yes, you do have access to your own meetings, to your own chats. However, if I'd put a request in that was asking for financial information or information that was perhaps only relevant to our HR department, it would block me from accessing those documents because it says you don't have access to that. As a consequence, we can't fulfill what you've asked for because it's not available to us. So almost acting like, as I say, it's a filter there that says, yes, you can, or no, you can't have access to that particular information. At this point as well, you can also have plugins to some third-party products, and it can use those as data sources as well as a part of that. So once it's gathered up that information for me as a part of my marketing plan request, and it's gone through my meetings and my chats, etc., that I told it to, it fires all that information over to the right-hand side of the diagram there, which is the large language model. The large language model is then basically going to process all of that information and make it formatable as per my request that I'd given it earlier on. So I've asked it for a marketing plan. So it's thinking about marketing plans, creating itself a marketing plan template, and then filling in the information that it has available from the meetings, from the chats, etc., to complete that document. And it would then send it back up to me in the top left-hand corner in the Microsoft 365 app, and it would present that information accordingly based on the request I've made. And again, all staying in that closed loop. None of that information is going anywhere outside of your kind of environments, and it's only you that will see the responses off the back of that. You know, it's not going outside, it's not training any language models, nothing of that nature. Everything is in there and only visible to yourselves and you within your tenant. So that's a very high-level overview as to exactly how it works in terms of it doing its processing aspect of the AI solution. And I'm going to move it on and look at some of the more interesting parts and show you a few demos, etc. here for them. So we're going to start off with Outlook. I've also got some bits in here around Word and PowerPoint, and a quick one from Excel at the end there as well, so you can see the capabilities in there. If you don't have any questions as we go through the demo, feel free to drop the questions in there. Once I've handed over to Angus, I'll do my best to answer those questions for you in the chat as well, or we'll try and touch on them at the end for you. So first things first, we're going to touch on Outlook. So Outlook is one of the ones that's really, really good for, especially when you're on the move and you're on the go, working from the train, from the coffee shop and things like that. It's very powerful in those scenarios because it will also work on your mobile applications, not just on your desktop applications, as you've seen it in the demonstration videos here. So in this scenario, what we've got here is we've got a colleague of mine who has basically been invited to become a project manager at the launch of a new venue for a business. And what we're going to do is we're going to open it up, ask Copilot to create us an email around accepting our role in that, and then we're going to use Copilot's coaching features and functionalities as well. So first things first, we've been tagged into an email trail here, and this particular email trail is 10-15 emails long. So what we've done is straight at the top there, we've pressed summary by Copilot. And what that's done is it's basically summarized that large email trail that we've got in there. This could be 5, 10, 15, 20 emails long. It will take a summary of those and give me a snapshot of exactly what's been said, what the narrative is behind these emails, etc., who's involved, as you will see on the screen there. Once we've done that, we're then going to go to the top and we're going to hit reply, which you'll see us doing there. And that gives us a little Copilot icon, top center of our screen. So we can press on that and we have the ability there to draft with Copilot or coaching by Copilot. So draft, Copilot would create the email for you. A coaching aspect would be I have typed my own email up and Copilot's going to give you some, let's say some information around that, reader sentiment, the clarity of the email, things of that nature. So we're going to start off with draft by Copilot, and that's going to bring us up a little box there that you'll see. And my colleague is going to go ahead and just type in a message there to say, please create an email accepting my role within the project and list out the action items that I'm going to take. That's basically a summary of what they're typing in there now. And then we're just going to hit generate. It's as simple and straightforward as that. One thing to remember here is that this has all been done in real time on this video demonstration. It hasn't been increased in speed or anything of that nature. you will just see a drop-down box that's opened up there. So that drop-down box allows us to predetermine what the tone of the email is going to be. So whether we're going to be very direct, if we're trying to keep it professional and formal, or are we going to be casual about it? And there is also bits on there where we can increase the length of the email, short, a medium length, or a longer email as a part of that. If you are going to do a longer email, one thing I would say is to make sure you give Copilot plenty of context. Otherwise, it will try and fill the gaps, and it can be known to waffle on a little bit inside of there, shall we say, just to kind of, as I say, fill the white space and create a longer email than was perhaps necessary for that response. So hitting generate there, and as you'll see, that load bar is giving us the generation in progress. And once that's completed, we will have a sample email drop in there for us that we can see. Perfect. So we've got our email in there now. It's given us the response. It's given us some bullet points, which are our action items that we're going to undertake as a part of that project. Fantastic. You'll notice across the bottom there is 3 more options. We can choose to keep it, in which case it'll drop it into our email draft and it'll allow us to send that. We have the ability to discard it, which would just be throw it in the bin, and I'm just going to type my own email or anything of that nature. And then you've got regenerate. So if it's going, you've got the right points, I just don't quite like how it sounds, you can hit regenerate and it would just regurgitate that message and rephrase it for you in short as a part of that. You also see there is a little box there that you can type into as well. So if you decide actually the tone of casual probably isn't right for this and I should change it and do it in a formal manner, this would be the ability at this point to say, actually, can we make it formal? And it'll go ahead and change that for you. In this instance, my colleague's going to type in here to make it into a poem. Not sure why anybody would ever do that with an email, but they are going to go ahead and make this into a poem for us. And Copilot will go away, do its stuff, and make that email into a poem for us. And there we go. So Copilot's turned that into a poem for us, and we've got everything that it needs there. So we're going to discard that now. We're just going to copy and paste and drop an email into this draft for us here. Because what we're going to do is we're going to use now coaching by Copilot. So we've got our email there, Copilot icon at the top, and we've hit coaching this time. So rather than doing a draft box in there now, it's obviously analysing our email itself, and it's going to look at 3 core components parts of this. It's going to look at the tone, it's going to look at the clarity aspect of it, and it's going to look at the reader sentiment. So imagine this being a Friday afternoon and I've had a bad week and perhaps I don't come across in quite the chirpy, polite manner that people expect from me. This can see me on the straight and narrow and make sure that I'm not coming across in too a direct manner, shall we say, as a part of that. So that's going to change the tone, give us some advice, give us some indications on changing the wording perhaps to make it so that we're getting our point across in the correct way. The tone may be saying, you are really formal on this. Do you need to turn it back a little bit given the audience is internal? Things of that nature is what it's going to be looking at for you and provide those responses accordingly. So that's it in terms of the ability to create and coach you in your email aspects. Now, the next side of that for us is the ability to help support in managing your mailbox on the day-to-day. So inside of the Outlook application, you'll see on the top right-hand corner there that we have a Copilot icon that we can use, and that Copilot icon will allow us to open up a chat function in the side menu of our Outlook application. So when we're in here, we have the ability to use some pre-created prompts by Microsoft, such as just to do some understanding, ask a question, do we need to schedule a meeting, things of that nature. It'll let you do quite quick and easily with those like almost hotkey, speed key icons that you see on the screen there. But in the bottom, you do get a chat box, which will allow you to input in there information, etc. There is also in there the speech to text function as a part of that. Really useful accessibility tool. And to be fair, even I find myself using it from time to time. Sometimes if I've got quite a wordy way of doing things, I will put my own spin on it by talking to Copilot rather than me having to type in what I want it to do. In this instance, though, what my colleague Angela here is doing is trying to organise her mailbox after coming back off leave. And as a consequence, she's asked it to categorise this for her. So rather than just open this up and saying, please organise my mailbox, she's gone in there and kind of given it a bit more of a curated answer saying, I need help organising the mailbox. Can you categorize my emails into what is urgent, what is not so urgent? Is there anything that's a complaint? And then can you give me some indication on, kind of the top 5 emails I should start looking at in order to get my way through my mailbox now I'm off leave? And lo and behold, Copilot's going to go away, do that summary and that assessment for us, and provide the context and the information accordingly that we need in a format that we've requested. And it's given us all of that. You will notice that on there is a number of small numbered boxes after those, like 1s and 2s and 5s and 10 and so on and so forth. Highlighting those little boxes will show you the source. So that's where it's taken the information from there. So highlighting over that will show you the specific email that you can also open from hovering over that as well. So if you do need to jump directly into the urgent email in question from there, you can highlight it, click it, and it will open that email up for you. So again, all the relevant information in the format that we've requested there, and all the sources accordingly at the end of that. Now, if this had been a web search, those sources could have been a web link. If it had been based on various documents, it could have taken me to a PowerPoint presentation, then a Word document, and then maybe a couple of emails or Teams chats even. So it'll pull information from various sources that are available to you as an individual when you request this in your work environment, unless you keep it very direct in terms of what you want it to do, as we've done in this instance. Perfect. So moving on now, I'm going to have a quick look at it in Microsoft Word for you all here. And this will jump straight into things for us. So we've already got a pre-created Microsoft Word document here, which is an introduction to Microsoft 365 Copilot. Now the document's created, what we're going to try and do is we're going to try and be in a situation where we want this document to be a lot more narrowed down, focused, and easier for people to read, rather than, as you'll see here, a rather large wall of text. So we've got some features and a bit of a description of each feature here that we're actually going to be highlighting as we're going. And you will see on the screen there, alongside what we've highlighted, there is a small Copilot style icon that appears in the margins of that page. And by clicking on that little piece, it gives us a few different things we can do. And once that's clicked on, it will give us the ability there, as you see, to have this piece of the document rewritten. We can have it where it's going to make some recommendations. We have the ability to create it as a table as well. So it's recognizing that we've got a list of information with a description, and as such, that's information that could be presented in the form of a table. So what we're going to do is we're going to ask it there to put this into a table format for us, and we'll click that there now. And as you will see, it's now producing that information into a table format for us. So it's giving us application to the left, description, use case, and information to the right of that, just as we'd expect it to kind of produce that based on the available information that we'd highlighted. You'll also notice on here, though, that a lot of this comes up with American-style spelling once it's gone ahead and done this. A lot of Z's instead of S's in there, for instance, on some of the wording, and that's quite commonplace when it comes to Copilot. One of the things that we will go ahead and get it to do as a part of this now is we're actually going to ask it to provide the document in UK English, not within the US spelling as you've seen it there. So they'll click on that box, and we're going to go ahead and type that in there now. Over time, as you do request Copilot to use UK English spelling from time to time, it will eventually learn that that's exactly what you want, and it will pretty much start doing that every single time for you, and it becomes really commonplace for it. Mine personally does this now purely because of using it, and it's learned me as an individual, and that I always use UK English spelling. And there we go. It's gone ahead and done those changes for us. There is also the ability that my colleague will show you in a moment on here that we can ask it for some inspiration on this documentation as well. So when we say ask for inspiration, what it'll do for us is it will start providing us with the ability in here to highlight select pieces of text, or even just press into blank areas of that document and just do the inspire me button. And what it'll do is it will analyze your document and make suggestions on something that may or may not be missing. Perhaps it may be a conclusion at the end of your document, or it could be a comparison perhaps of two different products that you've spoken about at a different point in time within the document, and just pressing on there and hitting inspire me will produce that piece of text. You also have the chat box there again on the right hand side that's mentioned, and that chat box on the right hand side will allow you to do various different things to the document, as well as analyze the document without making changes. So if you've just been emailed this and you've opened it, it's 50,000 words, a couple of hundred paragraphs and so on and so forth. What you would be able to do here is just ask it to summarize the document for you. Can you give me the main 5 points the document's trying to get across? Perhaps you're looking for an answer in the document and you just need a key bit and you're not sure where that is. You can just ask it to find that key component within the document for you, as well as a whole host of other things, including changing the document, amending the document, and bits that you'll see my colleagues functionality in this video demonstration doing there now for you. We've also gone ahead and you can add it to create FAQs and so on and so forth. So capabilities are pretty much limited only by your imagination when it comes to a lot of these things. I know I tend to find myself, doing something for 10, 15 minutes and then thinking, why didn't I just use Copilot for that? And it finishes it off for me in a matter of moments, which is, pretty handy to have, shall we say. And the last one I've got on here for you is I do have a demonstration of this within Excel. Now, my only problem being here with the Excel demonstration is my colleague does speak over it. So I'm going to hope that you can actually hear my colleague on this. But if you do have any issues with the volume, Craig, I don't know if you can maybe and let me know. Perfect. And that was a quick summary of it then for you there in Excel, sorry. So obviously it's got quite a lot of capabilities there. And obviously me and my colleague Angela in that video were no, Excel whizzes, shall we say. So that's some of the basic functionality that's available there, but it does go a lot further and, it's pretty powerful in terms of the features and the functions that it can give you. The last thing I'll touch on really quickly before I do hand over to Angus for you is just going to be around the plugins that kind of go with this and the connectors that are associated with it. You'll see there is a bit of a list on the screen there. That's by no means a complete list. There is approximately 30 to 40 more on top of this, and it is a list that's kind of growing by the day. But these are the sorts of, businesses that are creating plugins to the Copilot ecosphere at Microsoft and, giving enhanced capabilities at both ends there in terms of what you can and can't do. So again, if you are looking at deploying Copilot, it's worth looking at your associated products to see if there is available plugins connectors there to bring even more potential value to the product set itself. But with that, thank you very much everyone for listening to me, and I will hand over to Angus now to talk about the agents aspect for you all there as well.
Thank you very much, James. Right, let me just make sure we've got everything ready and up on the screen. So there we go. Perfect. It's as if I've done this on a webinar before. Thank you very much, James. It's really insightful to see sort of what the capabilities of Copilot can have within the sort of standard Office apps that you get included within Microsoft 365. So what I wanted to touch on was more the, as Craig put it, the agentic side. I think you can put agentic in front of anything now to make it sound cool. The idea of an agent is to look at a specific role or task that what you're carrying out and dial it into certain parameters to make it do what you want it to do every single time. So where the standard chat function is very much like, how do you help me with this email, help me do this, and obviously in the apps that James has shown, where with an agent you can get it to search a specific list of folders or give you the same information every time. So if you're writing a tender bid and you want to, you've got a load of standard documents or formatting, you can create an agent around that to give it the information that you want it to produce for you every single time. So I'm going to go through some functionalities of agents, also a sort of very quick demo of how you build one. There's 3 different levels of agents. There's within your Microsoft Copilot license, you get access to what's called Studio. So Studio is for creating very basic level agents. There's sort of 3 stages. You've got the sort of basic, intermediate, and then the advanced level. Now the advanced level requires a different type of license, but that is where you can really dial it in with automation flows or get it to trigger those automation flows and things like that. So what I'm going to be demonstrating is a lot more on the basic side of how you can get it to search for information and give you an answer based on that. So there we go. Introduction to sort of the agents. So kind of touched on a little bit in terms of what agents are. As you can see from sort of the on the screen there, in terms of creating a new agent, you can get it to do several different things: coaching, insights, also pulling off that data in terms of what you need. The idea around it is to improve productivity. So manual repetitive tasks, or if you're having to search in folders for certain documents and other things, it can take up a lot of time, and you want your team to be able to engage with something that can search through multiple documents, if you know, rather than them having to say, oh well, I'm trying to look for this particular process or this particular thing and not be able to come up with it. Decision making, so again, finding that information quickly, but then it's also giving your team just a front end to your data and to the specific part of that data can be very, very very useful in a lot of cases. I'll sort of demonstrate a little bit how we handle that internally. all this sort of forms part of the digital transformation 2.0. Before it was going paperless and things like that. The 2.0 is very much based around AI and automation. So automation has been around for 30, 40 years in its different guises. In IT, probably more like 20, if not maybe a little bit longer than that. But it kind of fell out of fashion. Not a lot of people were thinking about it, or working at a lot of software providers came and said, we're doing this, and people put it down to sort of ERP and software packages. AI has kind of resurged a lot of focus on automation, to the point where a lot of people are calling automation AI, because AI is a cool, hip word now. So everything's AI, where actually you're engaging with an AI in the front end, but in the background, there's the automation is doing all the work. Our AI automation lead often refers to it as the AI is the brain and the automation is the body. The brain can't work without the body, and vice versa. So there is a sort of happy medium of both. AI can't solve all your problems, unfortunately. Believe me, I've tried. There are elements of automating the day-to-day tasks, but then that's where AI can sit in and engage with you. So again, sort of covered a lot of this in terms of the long processes is obviously where mistakes can be made. If you're a very manual business and you're relying on people to do the work, what if someone calls in sick? What if something else happens? What if they decide to leave? How much of an effort and a task is that going to take you to bring in a new person, retrain them up to that standard, or having them, having that process not followed for a day because it's very manual? It's not talking about taking people away from that task. It's about having the business be able to run effectively, whilst having the people maintaining, monitoring, keeping an eye on those processes. But if you ask anyone what's the most boring part of their job, and I'm sure Craig and everyone else at your IT department can attest to this, is my biggest hatred is admin. And if I could get away with doing no admin, then I'd be very happy. Obviously, there's always some element of admin that's needed, but if I can work on automating or using AI to streamline that admin so it's not as much of a task, then I'm happier for it, and I'm doing more work and more meaningful work to our clients. So again, streamlining those processes and so a lot of this comes down to, have you got it written down? So have you got all of your processes and all of your standard operating procedures written down on paper that someone else can follow? If you have, then that digital transformation 2.0 will be a lot more of an easier shift for you. If you don't, then now is the time to sort of really investigate that, because AI and automation is only as good as the data it's got access to. So if you're relying on someone to know a process off by heart, rather than having that process written down, then there's business concerns in that part. So before we go on to client stories, I am going to do a live demonstration of Copilot Agents, if I can find my screen. So, oh no, that's the wrong screen. That doesn't always help. There we go. I've got several, I could never work out what I want to cook during the week. So I end up by just going to Tesco's and Sainsbury's and just, spending a lot more on my weekly shop than what I need to. So what I'm going to do here is create Chef AI, and it's going to be my cooking assistant to help me out with choosing recipes for what to cook each day. Now, I only want one recipe a day, and I want it to break it down nice and simple. Only use the information from the files within your knowledge. Don't use anything from outside these. It's quite a key statement if you're wanting it to search through certain documents. So within the knowledge, I can easily just go into here, the demo, and these are the recipes is the meat and the vegetarian ones. So I can just select that folder and attach it. So there we go. It's now searching for these particular ones, and then I want to swipe this to prioritize the knowledge. So I am then going to ask it. What should I eat tonight? I'm feeling slightly healthy, so vegetarian. If I can spell vegetarian, that will help. So then what that's doing is it's searching through those two documents and mapping what I'm looking for based on those documents. So it's recommended me the chickpea and spinach curry. Now, I've got a lot of things to do tonight, so actually 30 minutes, I've not got 30 minutes. So I want to see if there's something a bit quicker to make. There we go. Creamy mushroom pasta. That's only going to take 20 minutes. So what that's doing is it's looking at the process, the time that's in that file of how to make creamy mushroom pasta, and then using the data and the information from there to give me what I want. There's a lot of other sort of weird and wonderful things as it's sort of Halloween month, and I do like Halloween. I've been messing around with something I've called Ghost AI. So in this particular one, because it is also Cybersecurity Awareness Month, I've actually asked it to be a bit of a security awareness assessor for me on whether I should be clicking on links and things like that. So for this particular one, I've had a email from Dropbox from someone I've dealt with before. So what do you think I should do? So that this one isn't actually has got any knowledge behind it from what I explained before. This is using what information it has within its knowledge base. Firstly, the description is always to say boo because it is Halloween. But then that gives me a bit of information here saying, right, so it looks like this sender before, looks familiar. It could be a potential phishing risk, and then gives me a bit of a checklist of things to look out for. So as I said, this is just one that I put together the other day to kind of, in light of it being Cybersecurity Awareness Month, with a slight spooky twist on it. So that's a sort of very much a whistle-stop tour of how to create an agent on a very, very basic level. You can do, anyone who's got a Copilot license can do that. I use it a lot for our internal processes and SOPs that I have and that I use. So I can then just ask that, what should I be doing in this point? So that's very much on the basic side. What we're going to go into now is a bit more of the advanced level stuff and things that we've been working with some of our clients on as well. So one of our clients, they're an auction house. When they have a big sale, they might be selling 200 lots. So, for them, a good sales day is about 200 lots. So once they've all sold, they need to arrange the payment, but then also is the buyer collecting it, or are they wanting it to be delivered out to them? So we've set up a series of automation flows in the background and a Copilot agent in the front end to allow them to interact with this. So when an invoice gets sent out to a buyer, they get a link where they can select delivery or collect. If it goes delivery, it says, "What's your address?" And then a Copilot agent says to their deliveries team, "New delivery, send lot number 52 to this address. So it's all kind of using AI in the front end to engage with that data, but then allowing them to not have to spend the time to sort of dig through, calling up people. Do you want it delivered? Do you want it collected? And the same on the collection side is we set up a bookings page, so they will then book in for that collection in sort of certain time slots, and then on the day of that collection, the person who's handling the collections gets a notification by an agent that says you have Mrs. Jones, Mr. James, and Mrs. Hall collecting lot number 56, 72, and 3 today. So then they know to get all their collections in that day prepared and organized. So that has saved them a lot of time. It's an understatement, but also staffing challenges, because they had part-time staff or second people from other departments to just this collections department for several days a month. So this has massively freed up their time and allowed those teams to continue what they're doing rather than getting pulled into a different part of the business. PDF reading seems to be one of the most popular versions for using AI and automation. So a lot of people get, whether it's invoices, payments, payroll, whatever. This particular client is getting gas, water, and electric bills, thousands of them, because they're a facilities management business. It was taking 6 people to get through all this in simple data entry tasks. So what we introduced was a Microsoft AI builder. So that reads the PDF and pulls off the information into how they need it, which goes into a spreadsheet, which then they can allow to import that directly into where they need to go. Those 6 people have turned into 3. The 3 people weren't got rid of. They actually wanted to move into a different part of the business in customer service, but they didn't want to completely do away with the function of that data entry until they had a solution in place to allow those staff to progress through the business. So I think that's a really good example of seeing how actually AI and automation can, rather than the common saying at the minute where it's getting rid of teams, getting rid of members, is actually move them further forward towards what they want to do as a career goal. And the biggest case study would be us. So we've been using AI and automation for a good 3 years now, I believe. And with our sort of change management tasks, those roles that you want your IT provider to do the same way every single time, which can be the biggest cause of frustration when they're not done that way. We, using sort of automation and AI, have managed to streamline that entire process. Now, what that has actually saved us is, well, probably numerous complaints over the years, but also the time saved from change management has allowed our engineers to focus on incidents, which means our response rate has increased because they're not caught up doing change management tasks. We've managed to sort of do that, and where we're at a certain point now, we only see that increasing more and more with those change managements and moving further on with our journey into AI and automation. So in terms of sort of future directions of where AI is going, or agents, or agentic, as we like to as we've put it a few times, at the minute it is very much a tool. In terms of people using it, there will be further developments as you go through and you integrate that into the business, as to actually it becoming a teammate and in taking a specific role and task off someone so that they can allow to expand into a different area and take it from there. And then verticalization. So you're already starting to see a few specific industry AI tools, but I think that will only go further and further for legal, for manufacturing, for healthcare, for retail, and other parts in there as well. So it's only going to go more specific and more niched in terms of how companies are going to be advertising that. So yeah, no, really appreciate the time to talk to you guys today. This is a bit of a conclusion. I think we'll be sending across the slides across afterwards as well. Just find where this dot there. Yeah, so I'm not too sure how we're doing with time.
We're over.
We're over.
We're a minute over now. The good thing is nobody had any questions, so you've obviously explained it fantastically well, or bamboozled people and they haven't got a clue what's going on anymore. But yeah, we will be sending out a follow-up email. There will be also we'll host the webinar itself on our website, so you can go back and watch any elements of it that you want to. Again, I'm noticing obviously people are constrained on their time, so there are people dropping off straight away here. So yeah, just thank you once again to James. Thank you for Angus. Thank you to Angus, and thank you all for attending. And we'll see you again soon. Thanks very much.
Thank you.